Going on, Jeromes. Beautiful day for some Q&A. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. Fired up. First up, Traveler, OG Jerome. I don't think Kwesi has a new contract yet. Do you see a world where they keep Kevin O'Connell but don't extend Kwesi? Well, we outlined it. I think that what they're waiting for is that they're waiting for a busy season for GM to calm down, because they waited until Kevin O'Connell's season was done in the regular season. But this is GM season, and I think they are going to extend him. But maybe there's just a little bit of ownership, just looking at what happened with the Eagles and just seeing the track record of the last couple years of, hey, you win in the trenches. And Kwesi, if he doesn't address him, O-line and D-line, then they're just be like, maybe not. Maybe not so much. But overall, I do think that Kwesi gets extended. I think that Kwesi, O'Connell, and J.J. McCarthy, like, they're all in this together. I think they're the holy triumvirate. The Vikings will either fail or succeed with all three of them together, which is a good thing. Next, Quest for Adventure. The Vikings are stacked at edge rusher. Should we trade Greenard for picks? And if we did, what could we get in return? So I think with Greenard, you could at least command like a 1 and a 3. Like, it probably wouldn't be the Myles Garrett type compensation, but Greenard, he's younger than Myles Garrett. He's on a much more reasonable contract as well. Plus, Greenard, he doesn't just pad with empty stats. Not saying that Garrett does, but there's a few edge rushers that all of a sudden is like, oh, cool, you had 3.5 sacks against a very bad team. Congratulations. But Greenard just stepped up when the team needed it the most. Like, his sack against the Bears in overtime at Soldier Field, like, that doesn't get enough credit for completely staunching the bleeding, because the Vikings were effed. I mean, 11 points in like 43 seconds or whatever it was. Was it one of two onside kicks that got recovered last season and in the regular season outside the Super Bowl. But Greenard's sack in overtime when the Bears had the ball, just completely killing their momentum, huge. And what game was it where he was like sick and had the flu, but he still had a huge play at the end? Forget which one, but I wouldn't want to trade Greenard. I understand the logic behind it, though, because you got Andrew Van Ginkel, you got Diamond Dallas Turner, and you got guys like Bo Richter and Gabriel Murphy. Like, maybe feel good about the edge rushing group, and it's taking from a surplus and trying to supplement a deficit. And nah. I think you hang on to Greenard, right? But there certainly would be a market for him out there. Next, Ray Petty. While the Vikings may not have a significant amount of draft capital this year, are there players on other teams you'd like to see the team target using future draft picks? So, looking for trade. I mean, absent like a Quinnen Williams Jets or sexy Dexy Lawrence Giants trade, like, not at this point. Additionally, are there any potential cap casualties from other teams that you believe the Vikings should pursue if they become available? So, cap casualties are great because they don't count against you in the compensatory pick formula. Jonah Jackson, who signed a massive deal with the Rams last offseason, it didn't work for whatever reason. Been a big fan of Jonah since he came out of Ohio State. He had a solid career with the Lions before hitting free agency. I would take a flyer on him, because Jonah can play all three interior spots. Played a little bit of center last year for the Rams, and I think that he fits in with what the Vikings want to do schematically. But also, I would have a pipeline with the Rams. Like, why didn't it work out? Because the Rams do run a very similar offense to the Vikings, especially up front. So Jackson, I mean, I would take a flyer on Jackson for the O-line. Javon Hargrave as well. I know that he's 32, but also coming off an injury. But the 49ers said that they're going to release him as a post-June 1st designation, but you can still sign him on March 12th. I would take a shot on him because he's instant pass rush. He's pretty solid against the run as well. Won't cost you a ton. It doesn't count against in the comp pick formula as well. I wouldn't rely on him as like the future going forward, but as someone who needs a little bit of a career rehab and someone who completely just gets buckets along the defensive line, Javon Hargrave is a dude, man. He's absolutely phenomenal. So those are two names to watch as cap casualties. Next. JS Strength. What is the percent chance of Vikings successfully tag and trade Darnold? I think that it's probably about 20%. I think it's about, I'm trying to do math. I think it's 75% that he just leaves in free agency, 20% that it's a tag and trade situation, and 5% that he's back. I mean, there's always a chance, right? But I think there's going to be a demand for Darnold, because this is not a this is not a high-end quarterback class. Even though Sanders and Ward are probably going to go in the top 3 picks, Milroe, Jackson Dart could sneak into the first round. I mean, it's not a draft class like last year. And Kwesi, Kevin O'Connell are very smart on making sure they targeted quarterback and got their guy last year in J.J. McCarthy. But I do think when it gets down to it, teams like the Raiders, teams like the Browns, teams like the Titans, if they don't go quarterback at 1, could certainly be in the market for Darnold. And the thing about it is, if he hits open free agency, that price is going to go up a lot, right? And with Darnold and company, you kind of want that because you can also still pick exactly where you're going to go. But if a team comes in and wants to make a statement early and get something done, maybe save a little bit, give up a little bit of draft capital for essentially an exclusive negotiating window, that makes sense. And I think that's something that the Vikings could and should pursue. I think Kwesi, they haven't extended Kwesi because he's too busy on the phone trying to gin up a trade market for Darnold, which would be good. Next, Cole Zone. If you had to order all the rivals in your division from who you hate the least to the most, what order would it be? Well, it's sort of flipped, right? Because for a long time, it's the Packers, right? And I was always kind of cool with the Bears and the Lions teams. And a lot of it comes from the fan base as well. That's a huge... that's definitely like shading like rivalries, right? But I've never had a problem with the Bears or Bears fans, right? I actually do love the city of Chicago. I think that, well, like the touristy parts of Chicago, you know what I mean? But the Lions in Detroit, I never had an issue with. Frankly, I always felt kind of bad for them just because they were terrible. Not even just terrible, but there was just no hope for them over and over and over. Going 0-16 with our guy Dante is just nah. But that's completely changed. And my feelings towards the Packers and the Packers fans haven't changed at all. But all right, so it used to be Lions, Bears, Packers, but now the Packers hatred is still the same. But now the Lions are up here. they just leapfrogged. It's fine. But yeah, the Lions, F the Lions. I'm glad that their team got gutted in the coaching staff. I'm glad that they're facing some cap tightness. I'm glad that they're doing all that stuff because they're not going to make the Super Bowl and everything's going to recede. And then guess what? Their fans are just stuck with ticket prices that have essentially doubled from a couple years ago. All the loyal fans getting priced out. All the douchebag Johnny-come-latelys are gone. Back again, and it's just disaster for the franchise. They deserve it. That's it. Yeah. And then with the Bears, again, I have no issues with the Bears other than Ben Johnson's going to fail. Caleb Williams probably going to fail, but he'll succeed at a second stop. That's exactly what's going to happen. But that's it. Q&A this beautiful day. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.